Hi lovelies, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're returning. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you will know that I am an avid collector of all sorts of things. I've been a collector ever since I was a little girl, and I wanted to start a new tag for any collectors out there who also love tarot. I'm going to call the tag Collections Meet Decks, and I would love to see your decks, of course, but also to see your collection. So whatever you collect, can you find decks that match it, and can you bring the two together and show me? That way I get the best of both worlds. I get to see your collections, no matter how strange or odd, and I also get to see your decks. It's a win-win. So collections meet decks. So this first video, I am going to use my collection of Ladybird books. Now, if you are around the same age as me, I am 54, these images will possibly bring you back to the days of your childhood. That's what they did for me. So these are the books and the images and the pictures that make up the fantasy reading world of my childhood. The first few Ladybird books that I rediscovered were in a quirky little seaside pub that was part pub, part museum, part bookshop, and there was a shelf of these, and oh boy did it transport me back, and I made a vow to try and collect all my old books. So that's what I'm doing today. So also this tag also fits in with the picture book decks tag of Rachel over at Second Thoughts About the Mission. So this kind of crosses both at the moment. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm starting my own tag. I'm doing a final video to Rachel as well, and I'm going to share a Ladybird book collection with matching decks. So I've got this book out, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I mean, these images, so transportive for me to open this book and to see these images. So I went through my decks and I just thought the Oracle of the Shapeshifters might be a lovely match for this one. I mean, you've got similar colours there. I picked this one because you've got the beautiful big-eyed girls that remind me of Goldilocks, very much so. But you've also got her surrounded by the animals. And it just takes me back to the idea of the pictures of Goldilocks surrounded by the animals. Like, you've got some woodland scenes here. Now, I know this deck, we've kind of got animals and people a bit more aligned with each other than Goldilocks when she wakes up and she sees all the bears around her. Like, there's much more of a partnership in this deck. But images like this, I just thought it was quite a good match with the beauty of Goldilocks, the woodland scenes, and the being surrounded by the animals. I mean, do we even have a bear card in here? Have we gone past a bear card? We've got wolves. We've got Little Red Riding Hood. I think we've got lots of wolves, but we've got no bears, I don't think. So anyway, that's my first combo of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and the gorgeous imagery in there. And then this Oracle, the Shapeshifters Oracle by Lucy Cavendish, with the artwork, of course, by the incredible Jasmine Beckett Griffith, and really lovely start. The next book is this classic Beauty and the Beast. This was probably the book that I most wanted, tracked down for £1.50. Oh my gosh, these pictures, I cannot tell you the amount of hours and hours and hours that I poured over these books and these pictures. Now, Beauty and the Beast, I think, especially the way it's depicted here, like if you're a little girl, like 5 or 6, it always felt really dark for me. And my dad was also somebody that drove off for business for like days on end, selling bike wheels. So there was a feeling of darkness and dread about this, like with my own dad being away week after week on business. I always imagined, gosh, what if that happened to my dad? And I think the way the beast is depicted in this book, it's just dark and foreboding, and like she sees her ill dad in the mirror. It filled me with fascination, but a real sense of dread as well. So something a bit darker, but honestly, oh my gosh, I mean, this was the closest I ever got to dreaming about weddings, was pictures like this. Just absolutely amazing. So what deck for me feels like the energy of Beauty and the Beast? Well, I went for Tarot de la Nuit. So again, something dark. It's got more of a kind of dark, gothic, sort of nighttime feel to it. It just, for me, kind of felt sort of romantic enough, but dark romance. The dark romance of a beauty falling in love with a beast, being imprisoned. I mean, really, if you think about it, fairy tales are actually really quite dark. I mean, that story, like she's fallen in love with a beast who's got her imprisoned and won't let her leave. I mean, it's a story of all sorts of dodginess. So it needed to be something dark and sort of gothic, but something really beautiful as well. I mean, you've got the beauty aspect, she's beautiful. You've got the beautiful surroundings that she's being held in. You've got the beauty of her soul, and then them falling in love and spells being overturned. So amongst all the darkness, there is this element of the beautiful running through it, and the love affair running through it, and true love conquering all running through it. And I just think it sums up the energy of this deck really, really well. So that is the Tarot de la Nuit with Beauty and the Beast. Okay, a complete change of energy now. This is the classic 5 Little Kittens, which I mean, it's just, oh, again, it just takes me flying back to childhood. Mrs. Tibbets goes shopping. She leaves her 5 kittens with the instruction of please be good, and the kittens decide to show their mom how good they can be. They start trying to clean up the house. Of course, disaster ensues. Even a policeman gets hit with a mop out the window. We've got angry policemen. You've got the house being trashed. You've got policemen trying to climb through windows. Mom coming back in an absolute panic, wondering what on earth is going on. And the 5 little kittens explaining themselves. So, the classic 5 little kittens. So, it's animals doing human things. So for that, I picked this Bohemian Animal Tarot, which I think is just a fantastic Rider-Waite-Smith clone, which embodies that kind of energy of the 5 little kittens so brilliantly. So you've got all of these animals in human clothes doing human things. Not everybody's cup of tea, I do get that. I love it. It's got some absolutely classic cards in here. I mean, look, this death card is just brilliant. You can see it is very, very much a Rider-Waite-Smith clone in many aspects. That you've got imagery from the Rider-Waite. I mean, look at this. 6 of water, and like it's elemental as well. I just think the art, I mean, for a start, the art is quite sort of nostalgic picture book styles. I mean, look at the carousel. I just love that card. And it kind of just sums up that idea of the kittens, just trying to do their best. So completely the same energy. The guidebook for this deck as well, if you are interested in this deck, the guidebook is fantastic. It's really good. I think if you want alternative imagery, I mean, look at this Temperance card. This is the card that made me pull the trigger on the deck. I loved, this is a Temperance card that I can get behind. Moderation with all of this extravagance going on. It just, you've got to giggle at that. And the Goddess. So if you wanted something that kind of does follow Rider-Waite-Smith, but mixes it up with the imagery a little bit and some of these keywords, then this is a fantastic deck to try. And yeah, it just reminds me of the kittens trying to tidy the house. So the Bohemian Animal Tarot is my deck that meets the 5 little kittens. Okay, the next book on the list is Rapunzel. So just like Sleeping Beauty, this was another book that I was very adamant that I really wanted to find. This was another one that I spent hours and hours poring over. I mean, again, if you think about it, like a starving couple living next door to somebody in abundance, he takes just one cabbage and she immediately demands his firstborn, who then gets locked in a tower. I mean, it's so dark as she climbs up the hair. I mean, I used to, I think, as a kid, realise how dark it was and just not be able to leave it alone. And then he falls out the window and becomes blind. I mean, it's just the stuff of nightmares, look, that we feed to our youngsters in the fairy tales. But yeah, happy endings at the end, but still really dark. So I thought that this would pair nicely with the Nicoletta Ciccoli. I think the energy of the Nicoletta Ciccoli, like the lone beauty up a tower that's kind of darker than it should be, kind of feels like a lot of the imagery in the Nicoletta Ciccoli. I think that there are like a few towers. If I think of like that sort of imagery of the lone woman up a tower, then I think the Nicoletta Ciccoli definitely can fit the bill for that. I mean, you've got like the towers of building blocks and toys, of course. But it does feel kind of darker than it should. I mean, that could almost be Rapunzel up a tower, as could this one. Can you see what I mean? There is like that feeling of being stuck in a tower. I mean, this could almost be inside the tower, or replace tower with globe, stuck inside a globe. There is a eerie loneliness, I think, to this deck that kind of matches like being at the top of a tree in a nest alone. There is just something like this, almost looks like somebody that's escaped the tower. Yeah, an eerie loneliness is the energy for me that matches the idea of Rapunzel. So I think the Nicoletta Ciccoli is such a spectacular deck. It's one of those decks that's really helped me over the years on a personal journey, probably because of its energy. And I think if we end on this one, I mean, that's a perfect example of the Nicoletta Ciccoli meeting and matching Rapunzel. Another one that was really high up on my list of most wanted Ladybird books was Little Red Riding Hood. I wonder if you can guess what might be the deck that I pick to go with this one. I mean, I could have picked a number of decks, but what deck would you pick for this? Gosh, these images again, it's just so classic. Grandma in bed. I mean, getting eaten by a wolf. Oh my gosh, this picture, I used to love this picture so much. I mean, I'm talking hours spent with these books. Hours and hours and hours with each book. Oh my gosh. In fact, this book got so into my psyche, it inspired the imagery for my art installation exhibition, 100 Dolls and Me, which started off with the idea of Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, just so good. So you guess your deck. What deck would you put with it? I wonder if it's the same as my deck, the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. So I wanted to find a deck that felt like walking into the forest, but stepping off the path and finding surprises. And for me, the Forest of Enchantment just does that so fantastically well. So this is the deck that's holding back the dam for me of wanting lots of other decks at the moment. So there's the, oh, what's the oak something fairy tale tarot? Gosh, it's not called that at all, but there's that one. There are a couple actually of woodland based fairy tale decks at the minute, and I want both of them, but I'm using this to stem the desire for those decks, or to stem the desire for jumping into consumerism. I've got enough decks. But this just really does for me feel like stepping into the fairy tale of Little Red Riding Hood. Of course, if I get to the strength card in a minute, she actually features in this deck as well. Oh, the other deck that I'm trying not to buy is the Witch's Garden as well. I think this deck and my Green Witch Tarot is stemming the tide of that. Look, here we go, the strength card. There is a grown up crone version of Little Red Riding Hood this time, who's managed to make peace with the wolf. Just one of the reasons I bought this deck, and definitely one of the key reasons why these two just go together so perfectly. Okay, the next Ladybird book is Aesop's Fables. Now, I had as a kid an absolute fascination with Aesop's Fables. I had a big hardback gold edged book, all of Aesop's Fables, that I bought from a school book sale when I was about 6, that I loved as well. I've since tried to track that down, only to find that it's way out of print and costs hundreds of pounds now. So more for me for getting rid of that one, or you know, just having it got rid of for me, as we often do as our kids grow up. But I do have this one. I have this Ladybird version of Aesop's Fables. Of course, all the animals coming in with messages and lessons to teach, moral of the stories to give. I just love Aesop's Fables, I really do. And for me, the deck that this reminds me of is the Woodland Wardens. You can almost see it there. Look at that synchronicity. So animals coming in to give us messages. The Woodland Wardens is one of my favourites for that. And yeah, this, I still can't quite get over the fact that this deck is mass market. Everything about this deck, the production quality, just the imagery, everything about it just feels like it is not mass produced. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful to work with. For me, it definitely has that feeling of Aesop's Fables. When I look at these images, I just am transported back to being that 6-year-old girl getting my magical golden book out of fables and reading them and just thinking that it was the best thing ever. So I kind of feel really strongly that kind of bedrock of stories in my soul. When I use this deck, it's just still there. This is where this deck comes in and sits. It sits on all those years of reading and loving those stories. So yeah, definitely the Woodland Wardens is the deck that comes in to meet Aesop's Fables. So I think this next book is the only book that I didn't have as a child. All the others I had on my bookshelf in my children's bedroom. I think this is a later Ladybird book. I can't see the publishing date on this, but when I saw this in a charity shop, I did snap it up to come along with the collection, because The Ugly Duckling was one of my all-time favourite childhood stories. For me, it was so tragically sad, and I think being a right ugly duckling myself and being teased about being the ugly fat kid, like the whole time I was growing up, there was something in this story that resonated. Gosh, is that incredibly sad to admit? Possibly. And it just meant that swans, even from a little girl, they held that kind of symbol of hope, like that somebody someday will recognise you for what you are. Gosh, I'm sounding so tragic, aren't I? But it's the one story I can remember really crying about as a kid, and it's why I collect swans, which I'll probably feature in another collection video that I do, Collections Meet Decks. Because I've always collected swans because of this story. I just thought it was such a story full of hope. And for me, the deck that I bought because of my associations to swans, because of this story, is this little mini deck, which is called the Moon Journal, which only has a few cards in, but they're all swans. They're swans that have a card for each of the moon phases. The full moon card is out at the moment, so you can see for each moon phase there is a message and another swan. So it was one of you lovely guys that told me about this deck, which is by an artist on Amazon. If I remember, I'll try and link it in the description box. And because she knew that I love swans, she said, oh, go and look at this little deck, and that's why I bought it. So they go together. They just inherently go together, because this led me to this. So the next one is slightly different. Again, this is one that I did have as a kid. I didn't just have the fairy tale Ladybird books. I had like all the non-fiction books as well. I was obsessed with the Ladybird books because every year we spent all summer camping in a place called Shell Island, and Shell Island at the time just had a tiny little shop, and they had kind of turnstile bookshelves that sold Penguin, Ladybird and Puffin books. And I would just add to my collection all through the summer, and I was just obsessed with getting all of the Ladybird books as a kid. So I really did have a huge collection. Look, you've got shillings and sixpences here. My gosh, that takes me back. Not that I ever used shillings or sixpences, but they were lying around the house from mum and dad's money when I was a kid. That's how old I am. And like the halfpence as well. Gosh, I remember shopping with half pennies. Amazing. So this is a really old book, non-fiction. So for the deck that I thought I would pick for this, I've got, actually it's 2 decks combined. So these 2 decks are the Sacred Geometry decks. You can see that they're combined because we have 2 completely different backs in there, both of them gorgeous backs, I think. But if we're thinking about something a little bit more mathematical, then Sacred Geometry is the closest I've got for you. I mean, I suppose I could have put Thoth in there because I think the way that brings in the tree of life and astrology, a little bit more in there. That for me sometimes feels a bit too mathematical. I suppose I could have brought Marseille in, perhaps. Does that feel a bit more mathematical? Am I making any sense? I don't even think I'm making sense to myself. It's just the feeling. But of course, Sacred Geometry, I mean, this I can give a pass for this one, for matching a everyday words and number book. This is a fabulous deck. Like I say, if you search the Sacred Geometry decks, you'll see 2 of them. They are exactly the same size. They can be combined, which is what I did. So many cards. I can't actually remember the actual name because I got rid of the boxes a long time ago. Am I even in focus? Am I in focus? There we go, I'm in focus now. I hope I haven't been out of focus the whole time. If I am, let me just share a few more cards so that you can see what these decks look like. So this is less fantasy, more non-fiction, if that makes sense. And that's why I've picked these 2 decks to match this book. Okay, so that this video isn't taking forever to watch, I'm going to put these 2 decks together. So first of all, you've got the Sly Fox and the Little Red Hen. So let me show you some of the imagery through here. Of course, foxes in fairy tales do get a bit of a rough trot. They're very cunning and sly, always trying to eat something they shouldn't be trying to eat. And we're never really putting the fox as the hero. I mean, look at that hen house. Come on, isn't that fabulous? But yeah, it's very rare that the fox becomes the hero of any story. I suppose, like foxes, they do scavenge, but you know, as do any animal when that's how they find their food. And again, with the gingerbread boy, we've got the biscuit that comes to life. I've just got to show you some of these pictures because some of you might have read these books like I did as a child and just be desperate to see these pictures again. So that's why I'm trying to show you the pictures in the book and not just skip. I mean, this is a classic story where the fox comes along to help. Jump on my head, jump on my tail, jump on my back, jump on my head, and then snap, and the gingerbread boy is no more. I thought, right, let's do the Thistledown Oracle. There you go, you've got the fox there on the front. You've got the fox here on the back of the cards, and then you've got these absolutely gorgeous creatures in here. So it really does feel like a place where foxes can reside. It's just got that feel of a fox habitat. So although it isn't a fox deck as such, we do get the foxes pictured, but I just think the whole habitat, it just puts that world of nature that the fox lives in into a bigger perspective, rather than having the fox as the baddie. I think foxes are baddies when you view it from a human world perspective, but when you put a fox or any animal back in its own world perspective, and we don't come at it as humans thinking we own nature, then the fox ceases to be the baddie that it is. I mean, a scavenging fox in a landscape that's been decimated by humans is very different to a fox in a landscape as ecologically diverse as this one. And I think that's what we sometimes forget about when we think about foxes. So this is the thistledown oracle. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. In defense of the fox, I am sharing this one. Just gorgeous. So that's the thistledown oracle and my 2 fox books. Okay, I'm going to share another 2 books together here. So Rumpelstiltskin and Snow White and Rose Red. Both of these, especially Snow White and Rose Red, again, books that I spent hours poring over. Probably Snow White and Rose Red was one of my very favourite, along with Sleeping Beauty and Little Red Riding Hood. In fact, this probably might have been my absolute very favourite. Of course, with the bear that visits. But the thing that really used to chill my bones as a little girl was this creature here that got its beard stuck, and the girls stepped in to help, and the little dwarf went mad, and then again they stepped in to help when he was about to be drowned, and he went mad again, and then they stepped in to help here, and he got so angry with them, and then the bear comes along and kills him, and the spell is broken, and he is a beautiful, beautiful prince. Now, you would think, on looking at this picture of the girls walking home to say, look mom, the bear all along was this beautiful prince, that the mom would end up marrying him and they would be a family. But oh no, the prince just a few years later marries Snow White. Hello? That is something that you don't pick up as a kid. Why did he marry Snow White and not the mom? And how young would she have been? Just puts a whole new slant on the book, but never mind. It was the little gnome figure that I was thinking of. And also, of course, in Rumpelstiltskin, we have the little figure as well. So this little trickster figure that comes in tries to trick everybody. So yeah, fabulous. So we're thinking about these little bearded trickster characters. So for these 2 books, I am going with the Goblin Market Tarot. It's got that same feeling, I think, of meeting one of those little trickster characters on the road to the market. Don't you think that some of these characters look like they might be doing riddles and trying to trick you, and just having the most splendid fun dancing round fires as you fall for their tricks and games? So this is a new deck to me. You can see it's still in order, and I am really excited to start working with it. It's one that I took a while to to pull the trigger on. At first, on first sight of seeing it, I was disappointed that it had such big borders and there was such a lot of wasted space, but I'm beginning to realise that for me, those bigger borders, for me, it feels like it contains the energy of the card for me, which makes me be able to work with it clearer rather than like the energy of the card gushing out at me. I just like it. And once I thought that and revisited this deck, it was a no-brainer for me to pull the trigger on. But it definitely has Rumpelstiltskin energy, I think, or weird bearded little people with their beards stuck casting spells on you on the road. It's got that vibe. So the Goblin Market Tarot, it's my Rumpelstiltskin deck, or my Snow White and Rose Red deck as well. So we've got two more books to go. So this was another all-time favourite for me as a little girl, The Princess and the Frog. Oh my gosh, I loved the pictures in this book, and it used to make me laugh how selfish she was. This picture, there's something about this picture. I spent hours looking at this picture as a little girl. I don't know whether I was an odd little girl, but probably I was. But I can remember spending hours just obsessed with these pictures. Like not even reading the book, just looking at the imagery. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's just so classic, nostalgic childhood days. Also being obsessed by the princess's beauty and the fact that she could speak to frogs. I mean, wow. But then being horrified at her selfishness, just leaving the frog there. I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, she is made to keep her promise, which she hates. Absolutely hates it. But, of course, he turns into a prince. I'm certain this is where all my unrealistic expectations came from, spending hours with these books. So the deck that I thought would be brilliant for this is the Tarot of the Magical Forest, which has a frog suit, of course, which I have put on top of the deck to share. So this just, I thought, was perfect for that idea of frogs being let into the castle gates. It's just so good. So this isn't a deck that I've really used yet. It's a deck that I wanted for ages and just haven't got round to using. But look at this. I mean, it is absolutely perfect for The Princess and the Frog. So you've got cats in the swords, so your frogs are wands, your cats are swords, you've got rabbits in the cups. Look at that, 4 of cups, that's so brilliant. You've got foxes for the pentacles. I love this 5 of pentacles so much. It's just adorable, isn't it? Look at this 9 of pentacles. Oh, it's just so good. And it also has my all-time favourite Chariot card. Look at that Chariot card. Just the look of, oh my god, we're going too fast on their faces. It's just brilliant. But I just thought it was just a perfect deck to sit along the Princess and the Frog. Okay, the very last book now I have to share with you is my Ladybird book of Puss in Boots. So again, £2. The £2 ones were the ones I initially bought when I first found them. So again, absolutely classic picture book images of the Puss in Boots. Just so good. Oh my gosh, just takes me right back, it really does. Again, unrealistic expectations, but still good. So of course it had to be the cat tarot cats in human clothing. The cat tarot is perfect for this deck with these amazing backs. And here you've got cats dressed as famous film stars or film characters, or just famous people in general, peoples from Tales, big screen, books. You've got Frodo there, just amazing. Now, I am not really a cat person. I like cats, but I am more of a dog person. So for me to have a cat deck, you know that it's going to be a pretty darn amazing cat deck for me to want to buy it. I think this is a pretty darn amazing cat deck. I really do. And you've got a Harry Potter cat. Is this Scarlett O'Hara perhaps? Puss in Boots, there we go, look, Puss in Boots themselves. But you've got things like Freddie Mercury, you've got a Wonder Woman cat. I can't quite work out who all of the cats are, but the guidebook does tell you. You've got Star Wars. I say the guidebook tells you, but does it? Let me have a little look. Yep, the guidebook does tell you. And I think it's fabulous. Absolutely fantastic. Van Gogh, look at that. King Kong. James Bond. Just brilliant. Madonna. So Jack and the Beanstalk. You've got Peter Pan. So it is a fabulous deck. Look, you've got Marilyn Monroe, Fred Astaire. It's just great, isn't it? Or is that Fred Astaire? No, Gene Kelly. Yeah, I love it. It's such a great one and just perfect for Puss in Boots. So that's it, guys. That's my first installment of Collection Meets Deck. I am going to be doing more of these. I want to share some of the objects in my collections. I might mix it up more next time and like not do an entire collection the same, but bring like different objects from different collections in and let them meet decks. It's also my third installment of the picture book decks tag to Rachel. I'll leave Rachel's links in the description box. I hope you enjoyed that. I desperately hope that there are some ladybird book lovers out there that went on a nostalgia trip with me looking at those images. But whatever, thank you so much to anybody for watching. You are so appreciated. Every like and comment means the world. Subscribe if you haven't as well, because it would be just lovely to have you here in the space. And guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.